Hi, I'm Tracy Sweeney. I'm an artist from Castlebar, born and reared. The Linenhall has probably been a really integral part of mine and my sister's and my family's life, I guess, since it probably started. What would be my first memory of the Linenhall? There's a cookbook, a Darina Allen cookbook at home in our house, and when you open it up, out folds a little slip of a photograph from the County Telegraph years ago of myself and my sister wearing matching 80s jackets and these little pots that we made with Catherine McCarthy, who would have taught kids art workshops here at the time. And I remember what would have happened was we would have come to the town hall with my mum to do Irish dancing lessons, and we quickly realised, myself and my sister, that we had two left feet and Irish dancing was never ever going to be part of our existence at all. And I still have that smell of the hall. It was a very particular smell, and these metal chairs and them all stacked at the sides, and which years later we were sitting on in the town hall discos, but that's a story for another day. My other memory of the hall, because I guess the hall was where it kind of started, was we had to do a play. We were in St. Angela's in school, and we were all brought down here to practice and to do this play. So obviously there was the pantomime every year, which was really exciting when you were a kid in Castlebar, but we had to do a play about Margaret Burke's Sheridan, where we were all dressed as flowers. We were tiny, and we had these big cardboard flowers around our head, and we were dancing around the stage thinking we're awesome up on a stage. So consider that we're living in a town in the west of Ireland that it's not the biggest town in the world, but imagine if there was no arts outlet to have from a real informative age. And I guess I have a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old now, and I bring them to the Arts Centre here to do workshops or to watch films or to get them into Lego brick flicks and to stop motion, all of those kind of things. And it's really important for my kids' mental growth, because I see they're not into the football and they're not into the sports and they're not into the usual things that kids are interested in school, in as much as my mum pulled us out of swimming lessons and pulled us out of dancing because it wasn't for us, but the art definitely was. So as the years went by, any chance we got to come to the Arts Centre, we would come here. And Marie, she'd hold different, obviously there was the arts workshops, but when I was in transition year, I came here to do work experience, and any chance I could, I'd come in, and I just loved being part of that art world. And like, I had very much decided at that point I wanted to be an artist. My uncle was an artist. I was like, how am I going to make this happen? So to be in the Arts Centre and to help with the selection, I remember that year, I can't remember the guy who created the Mayo Arts exhibition, but he came down and he picked all the paintings and he went through loads of techniques with me about how to hang them and how to stack them and how to do, and like, this was real practical information. But when you're maybe 16 or 17, it was like, that's where I learned this information from. So we would have hung that show, I remember, and over the years I would have put up pieces myself into shows, and my very first exhibition was in the Linenhall back in 2004, 2005. I was fresh out of college, had applied the year before, had only left college and got my degree, and lo and behold, got this exhibition, got told I had been selected for this exhibition. So I worked on it for as long as it took and put the show up, and the room was packed. The night of the opening, it was packed. There was everybody from Castlebar, and I remember even going for a drink in Rowland's afterwards, uptown and up to the Humbert, and it was like, oh my God, I finally made it. And me only like 23 or something like that, thinking this is it. This is the beginning of it all, which technically it was. I am still an artist, so it's only gathered momentum, I guess, since. But the Linenhall has been really integral to all of that, and that's why I say, imagine the void that you would feel if this hadn't been here. How would I have ever decided that it could be a potential career? Because if you don't have culture in a place, or a place to go to inform you of films and theatre and lights and makeup and art and graphic design and photography, then how would you ever know that that's what your career can be? Because my husband had never known you could be an artist until he met one. Like, it wasn't a thing. And he was from Claremorris, which isn't all that far away, but it goes to show you, if you don't have the institution to build on, because there was no GMIT there at that time. So the Linenhall has been really, really huge. What else was I going to say? I also remember doing something, and I don't know whether it was in tandem with Marie and the Linenhall, but there was some kind of a production going on called the Bogaroonies, which sounds really cool. Do you remember that? Up in St. Mary's. Now, my mum was a psychiatric nurse. She's not a psychiatric nurse now, but she worked in St. Mary's in the locked wards for years and years back when there was locked wards. And for them to put on a production like that up there, so it was an interactive play where the residents, the clients, I guess, up in St. Mary's got to move through a play, and there was castles and there was streets, and so it was done in the hall up there. And I can't remember if it was in tandem with the Linenhall, but I certainly remember I went up with my uncle to help paint sets up there. And all the sets, like how can you build an entire castle out of styrofoam and it looks real? And that's where you start to learn the artifice of shading and manipulation and making something look like something else, and that added layer of, or a patina of age that you can put on something. And I guess that since comes back to me every time I do a painting, because most of my work looks old or looks ravaged by time. But to see how those kind of surfaces kind of come together informed an awful lot of my work. But also I remember at that time it was a really, really important thing to have an interactive play that particularly, I guess, like the clients that were up in St. Mary's at the time could bring some element of culture into their lives. So it was hugely important, I think, to see that at a young age, And I don't know if there's much more I can say about it, short of the fact that over the last few years, when I see my kids and them, they're not, like I said, they're not interested in the football at school or necessarily the learning either. To bring them here on a summer month, or when the Rula Bula Festival is on, or different things, to always know that they can come in like this. We've seen some amazing kids plays here. The quality of the kids plays that come in here is out of this world. And for a while I worked in the arts office down in Kilkenny, and they've got a very interactive kind of art scene, and they do a lot of community with their workshops for the teachers in community art centres, and it's very much child-led. And while I'm not a teacher myself, when you see the value of child-led creativity, that's when you realise how much good it's done your own kids, particularly when they do suffer from anxiety and going back to school and COVID and all the rest. And if it hasn't been for a creative, I suppose, us having a creative background, I don't think we would have gotten through COVID, because our little guy just loves his kind of stop motion and his making and his animation and everything. So I'd have to hand the Linenhall a big pat on the back for everything they've done, really, from whenever they opened back in the 80s right the way through, and long may it last, because it's an anchor in the middle of Castlebar that just brings culture to the place that we can keep coming to, keep dipping in and out of, be that plays or music or visual arts, whatever it is, and it just opens up that conversation for us all. So yeah, thanks for having me.